Cineboys to Cinnamon, episode 48.
48.
Hope you're well, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. This week...
Dune Part 2.
Geostorm.
No, not Geostorm. We're not doing that yet.
No, not yet.
No.
With a guest here before me, Alfie Hunter-Martin, back in the hot seat.
Hello, thanks for having me back. Third time's a charm.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Yeah.
This is going to be my big break. I just love it. You're going to ask me back permanently.
Oh yeah, baby.
For the podcast I created.
We think, I don't know, the credit is in the bit where you whisper "Cineboys to Cinnamon." Like, for those who don't know, that is Alfie's voice, not mine.
Of course, yeah, because that was Jan's music, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just sort of whispered over it.
Yeah. We added something to it.
We made it better.
Yeah.
Just like how Ben has made the podcast better in my absence.
Oh.
I'm saying that because I've been asked to say that.
My Ben's mum.
My mum. Your mum as well. My mum as well. What's my mum's? It was Mother's Day.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sent a card, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I bought one. She came to see me, so yeah.
Oh.
Sent yourself a nice little postal fee there.
Yeah, and 25 quid worth of petrol as well, which is nice. So,
yeah, nice.
No, thank you for coming over, both of you, Mum and Dad. You were definitely listening.
That'd be a bizarre segue, wouldn't it?
Didn't come over me.
So, Dune 2.
Yep.
That obviously means that we're going to talk about Denis Villeneuve. How do you pronounce his name?
It's like Denis Villeneuve, isn't it?
Villeneuve? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dennis.
I just say Dennis from now on.
Yeah.
Villeneuve means like new house. So you just call
really?
Dennis Newhouse.
Oh, okay, yeah. Dennis Newhouse.
If you struggle, just say Dennis Newhouse.
Dennis Newhouse, yeah. Just imagine that on the billboard. Right? From Dennis to Newhouse.
From acclaimed director Dennis. Dennis Newhouse.
It's like, you got like Ken Loach style films, a guy called Dennis Newhouse.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So we'll rattle through some of his films, talk about his career, talk about his position in blockbuster Hollywood. I think he's on a similar sort of level to Nolan in terms of the way people discuss his movies and what his films try and do within the blockbuster sphere. So I think there's definitely quite a lot of scope there for some good chat.
Yes.
And then of course we'll talk about the film itself.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, definitely. Talk about the theatrical experience a little bit. Just the idea, and I think Villeneuve lends himself to that sort of idea really well. The merit of a theatrical experience, I think. Well, I know we've discussed that in the past, but specifically related to things like awe and majesty and sound design, I think.
100%.
Films like this as well, in particular, it seems like it's more relevant than ever, right?
Yeah. Oh, completely. Yeah.
It makes it an event, doesn't it?
Yeah,
in a way that appeals to people that aren't just like film losers. I don't know, like it just feels like.
What do you mean by that?
Sorry, yeah. I didn't run that joke beforehand.
I normally vet every remark that you make in this podcast.
Script.
People don't realise this podcast is extremely scripted.
Yeah.
You gave me that script last week. I was like, well, this is detailed.
Every little nuance.
Every little thing.
Yeah.
Every interruption.
It's like 9,000 pages.
It's elaborate. I agree though with what you were saying, Ben, about that. Like the difference, I guess, between film and cinema, in the sense of like, this is a movie that has to be seen in a cinema to get that full experience.
Definitely. It's a kind of phrase that gets bandied around quite a lot, actually. It's like, go and watch it in the cinema. I mean, dig deep into that phrase a little bit, see, like, kind of get to the...
Don't watch it on an iPod Nano in a wimpy toilet.
No, definitely not.
Right. What film is perfect for watching on an iPod Nano? That's what I want to know. Like a SpongeBob movie or something. I like the SpongeBob movie.
Unbelievable.
That's how I watched Dune 2. So.
Yeah.
That's the pan and scanned version. It's ridiculous. One of its original 16:9 aspect ratio, please.
Thank you. Please and thank you.
Right, let's get into it.
Nice.
Questing the cinematic void.
Okay then, Villeneuve, Dennis Newhouse,
yeah.
First film, or certainly the first sort of film with a theatrical release, Polytechnic.
Yes.
I have seen it. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's great. It
is really good.
It's a horrible watch. It's like sort of, and from Elephant as well. It's a similar sort of.
Oh, Gus Van Sant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of pretty nasty and pretty matter of fact, I suppose, and it doesn't really showcase a lot of his current sensibilities, I don't think. Like, I think he was sort of testing his creative waters a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it works. Like, it's good. It's a lot of sort of floaty handheld, as is typical with a lot of debuts, I suppose, or at least early work that he's sort of abandoned, I think. Although there's some of that, there's a lot of that in Arrival still, I'd say. And maybe even, although Enemy's quite cold and calculated, isn't it?
But he's become a bit more precise, hasn't he, as a sort of filmmaker, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But no, I mean, I don't have too much to say about Polytechnic other than it's a harrowing watch, and it's sort of quite uncomfortable in its themes, and
it spends a lot of time with the
gun
traitor,
effectively.
Which is always going to be a tough sell, isn't it? At least initially.
Yeah, that's the challenging thing. He sort of challenges himself a little bit to make
a big film to take on, isn't it? It's like a debut.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah. You have to be quite assured, I suppose, and quite sort of confident in your own vision, and
Do you see much of that footprint of like that's in his work now in that film, or do you think it's kind of like he's still figuring it out at that point?
Yeah, I mean, he does sort of. Prisoners has a lot of challenging themes.
Yeah.
So I think he sort of still has that in him, but also he clearly loves a huge blockbuster as well.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Blade Runner 2049 or the Dune films attempt to tackle anything quite like Polytechnic does.
No.
But
maybe not as human, but maybe like the themes are a bit broader.
Yeah.
Of the larger scale, but like Blade Runner 2049 is not particularly like accessible.
No
film, is it?
No,
might be why it did really well at the box office.
Yeah.
He really bounced back from that, didn't he? Actually, even though I quite liked it. We'll talk about that a bit later on. No, I think it's interesting we talk about that. I always think about that in the context of filmmakers like David O. Russell. Like he made like Spanking the Monkey.
Very weird kind of like sort of aloof comedies. Started out really,
and Spanking the Monkey is quite
thematically it's grim.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay.
Tell me exactly what it's about.
2 minutes or less.
Well, it ties in quite nicely with what we're saying about Mother's Day, actually.
Oh, God. That's more weird.
It's basically a guy, like a sort of drifter, sort of stereotypical sort of, is he 20s, I think?
Yeah, he's kind of like a college-y dropout. Kind of I feel like it's...
Yeah, I think it's something like that, isn't it? That's not the plot detail you remember.
Yeah.
He basically moves back home with his mum, and they, after a period of time, start a sexual relationship.
Oh, Christ, okay. Yeah.
So
it's really uncomfortable. It's in the same line as someone like Todd Solondz.
100%. Yeah,
like that kind
Harmony
of
Korine.
Yeah. What was that? Because there was Harmony Korine was like, what was his movement that he was part of?
Dogma 95.
No, he worked in that realm, but I think they were called almost something like the Enfant Terrible or something like that.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
That it's not that, but Todd Solondz and
something like that. Yeah, that
kind of countercultural 90s independent cinema that was championed by like the Village Voice and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
That's kind of where David O. Russell I think fits into, like in that.
Certainly,
he started in that. He came out of that, and then he kind of went off, became a bit more of a sort of big filmmaker, I guess. Like Three Kings and stuff are very studio-y kind of movies.
Yeah.
But,
I love Three Kings.
I just wondered.
I'm always interested. That's why I sort of bring him up, because I'm always interested in filmmakers that start in that sort of territory, very thematically unforgiving territory, and then they. As their career progresses, they do become mainstream. And we say that, Blade Runner 2049 isn't particularly accessible, thematically speaking. And Dune, you could argue, there's a sort of elliptical approach to narrative that is certainly not in line with modern blockbuster cinema.
No.
But the journey from getting from Polytechnic to Dune, it's...
it's crazy, actually.
It's almost, I would say it's almost impossible to identify the same filmmaker.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you said his closest parallel is Nolan, and I agree with that. I think in terms of his trajectory as a filmmaker, he's kind of started in independent cinema, really, and he he made his name with a big thriller, kind of like Chris Nolan did with Memento, and in Villeneuve's case, I'd say is probably Prisoners was his like breakout.
Yeah, that was very Oscar buzz. There was a lot of Oscar buzz around that. Or if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then sort of goes off and does things like Arrival and Blade, and he's kind of gone in that similar trajectory, I think, in a way, and he's gotten bigger and bigger, but he's kind of stayed true to at least what interests him. And making kind of like intelligently thought out blockbuster cinema, like kind of like Chris Nolan or Ridley Scott, I guess maybe could be another good comparison for someone like Villeneuve.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, agree. I mean, they both worked in the same franchise for a film, didn't they? So clearly, whoever picked the director for Blade Runner 2049 probably thought they shared some of the same sensibilities. I do think he's unique, almost unique. Obviously, you mentioned Nolan in his kind of. He seems quite assured in his decision making. It's like when you watch a Villeneuve film, you don't think, oh, that was a bit like, you could tell they kind of did that was a last minute decision. Like, I think my kind of impression of him is that he probably spends quite a lot of time in pre-production planning ahead.
Totally.
Because you can tell when you're watching his films that like there's a real decision there. And it's just quite a singular vision, and it's really surprising that the studios give him the money.
Does he write all of his films? I feel like he didn't write Dune, but maybe he had.
He co-wrote Dune, didn't he?
He co-wrote. Okay. Because I saw like 3 names of the credits, and I just register his name, but I imagine it's Blade Runner? Did he write Blade Runner 2049?
I'm not sure, actually. I have no idea. Maybe I should look it up.
We should.
I only wonder because Nolan obviously writes everything, so he's more of a writer-director by design. Maybe Villeneuve fits more the Ridley Scott mold, because Ridley Scott doesn't necessarily have a hand in writing everything he does.
No, that's true.
But he does write those make those big franchise tentpole kind of releases.
Yeah. Did he write Prisoners?
I wonder.
He didn't write Blade Runner 2049.
Okay. I just can't imagine he would have done.
No.
Let me see.
I can't imagine the studio would have let him.
It feels like he was a proving ground for him in a way, doesn't it?
He did write the first Dune with 2 other people as well.
Yeah.
And I'll go through his whole filmography now.
Adaptation.
Yes, he wrote Incendies with some other people. I feel like he likes to share credits with his writing with other people,
which is interesting in itself, really. And I feel like as well, like Incendies is a kind of like that followed Polytechnique, right? I'm right in thinking.
Yeah. I think that was his first English language film.
Okay. So that was again, thematically quite a challenging movie. So there's certainly parallels there, but it seems sort of from that he moves away from that sort of more ground level thing. And even though Prisoners is quite a sort of, you could argue it's a fairly ground level movie, certainly in comparison to his sci-fi stuff.
A harrowing film.
It is, but it's sort of still, there is a sort of sheen to it that it feels a little bit more Hollywood, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And it's casting as well.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not saying that necessarily as a criticism. I'm just saying that, like, just more broadly speaking.
What's your problem with Denis? Anyway,
what's your problem with Prisoners, man?
He did Enemy as well, which I feel like he kind of made just in like. We must have made that like a weekend, because it just feels so kind of like urgent and quick. Which it's not as well thought out as Prisoners, maybe, in the sense that it feels a little bit more.
I think it's either, whether intentionally or not, it's very abstract.
Yes,
it's a lot more. It's like a kind of art gallery piece.
But I'd say that's maybe where like one of the more earlier examples of his visual love. Like that movie is a lot about imagery, like you say, like it's very poetic or something, but. There's lots of imagery of spiders and things like that in that film.
Oh man, that last shot. Jesus Christ.
I've not actually seen it.
Oh, it's really good. I've got it on Blu-ray.
Oh, I'll have to come over.
I need to watch Incendies and Polytechnique as well, because I've not seen those, actually, unfortunately.
Both really good. I mean, again, long time since I watched them, but Incendies particularly. It's pretty,
So what about Arrival? What'd you make of that?
I've only seen it the once, and I saw it at the cinema, and I was really taken by it. But I sort of have this odd sort of relationship with sci-fi movies like that, where I really like them, and then the more I think about them, the more I not dislike, but the more my enjoyment is watered down. I don't know. That's how I sort of feel about it. I need to rewatch it, but
I love it. I think it's great. I do think I do agree with you though that it doesn't benefit from rewatches.
Okay.
Which is weird because the ending is quite confusing. So you'd think that you'd pick up on stuff the first, but it's quite watch it once and you kind of absorb it and you get the idea and the feeling of it, and it is just that really. Like there's a lot of, I mean, this is a start of Villeneuve sort of experimenting with really long shots of abstract stuff with like a low rumbling sparse soundtrack. And Dune is full of that, like to its benefit for sure, but he does love that kind of thing. I think Arrival's really, really good, like really strong film.
Really enjoyed Arrival. I feel like I really love the philosophy behind it as well, because it's a very humanist kind of film, and it's about language, which I feel like maybe because he's multilingual is such an important part of his films, especially with Dune. There's something about like the fact that we speak different languages, we share a sort of common sense of, I guess, identity or humanity or whatever you want to call it with Arrival. Like, there's something in that, isn't there?
Completely, The concept of it is like, how would we attempt to communicate with otherworldly beings who may or may not be sort of fifth dimensional? Like, how would we construct a language based on what we know about communication, and based on what we can observe that they know about it as well? It's just it's really good, and I think it's probably his most emotional film, I would say.
I'd say so.
I think it's his most Spielbergian film.
Oh really? Yeah.
Like I feel like Close Encounters. That end scene of Close Encounters with Truffaut and the lights. And I fucking love that.
I love that film so much. And maybe that's why I love Arrival so much. It brings to mind that kind of movie.
Do you know what? It's funny. I've only just thought of it in that context, and that's made me sort of think more positively of the film than you already.
Spielberg's a potentially quite a good comparison for him. I mean, Spielberg never did anything that heavy thematically early on. Really, he was quite sort of.
He was more
wasn't he, like a B-movie filmmaker when he started?
Yeah.
Jewel is such a
great.
Jewel. But he went the other way. He kind of got more and more into like deep themes as he got older. But
he had a period of kind of not pandering, that's the wrong word to use with Spielberg, but children. He wanted to make films for children, really, and films that sort of you could grow up with, I suppose, whereas Villeneuve hasn't really done that. That's the only difference.
It doesn't seem like his wheelhouse, does it? Really?
No, he could try.
I can't imagine a kid's film from Denis Villeneuve.
No, I can't. No, there is something quite serious about Villeneuve, I think.
Oh man,
his films are quite serious.
They're all
they are.
And I think sometimes that, I don't know if that sort of just rubs you up the wrong way slightly sometimes. I don't know why that is, because it's not necessarily fair, because you go into a film, you don't, you can't expect everything, but I just feel like, and this is where I think there's comparisons to Nolan, in the sense that there is a sort of like, settle in now, you're watching something high quality. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even as someone that like obviously loves movies and wants these kinds of films to exist, I think I touched on this in the episode with the Film Angle boys on, but it's sort of like I cry out for these kind of experiences, and then I watch them, and then I start thinking, part of me just thinks, God, this is a bit full of itself. But then I think, well, pick a lane, Danny, man. Like, do you know what I mean? But
I think there's a place for it. I mean, like Blade Runner, the original, for example, is a pretty humorless film.
That's true.
Like, it's got an excellent atmosphere all the way through. It would be weird if Blade Runner 2049 was like a self-referential.
Some quips.
Like, Here we go again.
Like Marvel style. Humor.
He's behind me, isn't he? God,
that's true.
I think there's.
Are you a replican or a replicant? Cut. Cut out.
And some narration instead. I loved Blade Runner 2049.
I liked it, actually.
I thought it was good. Like, I imagine you love that film.
Yeah.
That's just a
I could let it wash over me, and the self-seriousness is entirely forgiven because of how gorgeous it looks and how lovely it sounds. And
it's emotional as well, and it's a movie that surprises me that it's emotional, because like it's something he likes to subvert kind of hero narratives a little bit, Villeneuve, and I think he does that particularly well in Dune. But you have this investment in Kay as a character, that he's going to be something great, and when that doesn't happen, it's kind of sad. Like, it hurts. Like, I don't know why, but it's like, it's impactful.
I love that moment, and it's become an iconic image. I remember it's like the best. It was probably the best shot in the trailer. It's of his girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
And he's standing on a bridge and she's pointing at him and she's massive. I just remember like that being really devastating as well, because although you know she's like not real, it's kind of that really hammers it home, and that's when he realizes, and you're sort of with him like in that moment, and when he sort of realizes that his thoughts and feelings are fabricated and are kind of synthetic. I love that so much. Actually, that is more emotional than I remember, because I just remember it for the orange bits.
There's
love orange.
A fair bit of that is my book.
Same with Sicario, actually.
Oh, and Sicario. See, I forget about Sicario. That's kind of between prisoners.
Oh God, yeah.
Arrival, isn't it?
Great scene on the highway. That's brilliant.
It's a great film, I think. It reminds me of like Traffic or something like that. Like in terms of its kind of its aims and its focus on like the war on drugs as a sort of concept. Yeah, good movie. That was Taylor Sheridan, I think, wrote that.
Oh really? Oh, okay.
That surprised me. It's very, very much his area, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen the sequel, not as good.
Yeah, he directed that.
Yeah.
It's okay. It feels kind of like a sort of like, you know, like how like Rambo, like the first Rambo is really harrowing and like, and the second one's just like an action revenge.
Okay, like, you know, it sort of loses the thematic sting. That's a good comparison, actually. Yeah.
It sort of goes the other way, doesn't it? But
weird that they attempted to make a franchise out of Sicario.
Yeah, it's a weird choice.
Yeah. There you go.
But then I mean, like, Narcos has proven massively successful, so there's obviously a demand for it, I guess.
But, that was probably it, actually.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets about Sicario, myself included. Like I forgot he did that until like just now. He did Sicario.
And what about Dune Part 1 then? Like, how did you view Dune Part 1 before going into this?
I saw it in the cinema right after COVID, and it was like such a great. It was like the reminder of why cinema is so powerful to me. I remember sitting down. I was with colleagues, and it was like bad seats, and I remember thinking, "Oh, this is long. I'm in for a slog here," sort of thing. Even though I knew it was like praised, and then it just sort of. I let it sort of envelope me a little bit, and that's what Dune, I think, in particular, is great for. And I remember that distinctly coming out of the cinema, thinking that didn't feel like 2.5 hours, and I can't wait to go to the cinema again. And it was like the first time in 3 years that I'd properly enjoyed a film at the cinema, and it was like, so personal nostalgia for it. And I haven't seen it since, though, which is weird, and which I probably should have done before going to see the sequel. But no, I just remember, I don't remember a lot about the plot, but I just remember that feeling of like total absorption, which was grateful.
I thought it was a great sort of example of just world building. I really liked the conviction just to spend like 2.5 hours building a world.
That's really all it is. It's a setup film, but it like does it so well.
Like I because the sort of the narrative pacing, I think he carries that over into Dune 2. And I actually think he was better suited to that world building, personally. But like, you know, I was actually, I really enjoyed it. I was just thinking back to that sort of like, because it's so rare now, you know, that to see a film be that bold in something like that, because blockbuster films, by their very nature, you know, they have to move on quick. And it's always about, like, particularly, you know, we talk about the state of modern blockbuster cinema and the commitment to franchises and stuff. Like, it's all in the service of that, isn't it? I know he said I want to kind of try and stay away from that as much as possible, because we harped on about that in the last episode. But you know, like, so in a way, it felt like a real moment in that sense, in terms of narrative structure and a confidence to sort of like step aside from that.
That's interesting. I was actually, I didn't see Dune in cinema because it was sort of midst of COVID. I was still weary about going.
Fair enough.
They were packed screenings as well, so totally understandable.
I mean, I can't remember the first film I ended up going back to see. It could have been The Batman.
Oh right,
With you. But I remember watching it online and like. Just thinking like, I really wish I'd seen this in the cinema, because the impact is lost. Like, it's harder to let a film like that wash over you on like on a laptop or on a telly or something. Like, you really do want to get that on the biggest screen possible. Really, it's all about that as an experience, isn't it? I did enjoy it. I remember when I watched it, I was like, it's just really similar to Dune, like David Lynch's Dune. Like in terms of the narrative, and I guess that goes to show that Lynch did follow the book pretty well. Because it's they're both faithful adaptations in a lot of ways.
They clearly both loved the source material.
Yeah,
and Lynch attempted to inject his own sensibilities into it, as well as probably having a lot of pressure exerted on his skull. Yeah. Whereas with Villeneuve, I think they did sort of let him get on with it.
He seems to have had a bit more free reign, and maybe his sensibility suits a movie like that better, because David Lynch is obviously his hallmarks of his production design, especially in his early part of his career, were factories. He loves industrial scenery and stuff like that. And when you watch Dune, the way they do the spice harvesting machines, they just look like giant moving factories.
Brutalist.
And then his style doesn't really fit with this kind of feudalistic kind of fiefdom, does it? It's more it needs that feels medieval, and I think Denis Newhouse does a better job of replicating that kind of feeling. That it feels like something from the medieval times or something like that.
Definitely.
It feels more like an archaic form of society. The world in Dune. At least of his Dune.
Lynch's version feels more like Hellraiser. It feels like there's a bizarre sort of Hellraiser style to the costume and stuff.
I kind of love it.
Obviously, no names.
I actually don't hate that film.
No, I don't.
I don't think that movie. I feel that movie is unfairly criticised.
I will credit it for kind of giving off a feeling of total Alien. It's so alien watching that. That might be down to the admittedly poor visual effects, but there is something about I haven't read the book, but I've read some excerpts and chapters, and you do it gives off this impression of genuine kind of unsettling, kind of that sort of unsettling alien abstract vibe, and I think that's one thing that I feel is missing from these next two, which, I mean, if he tried to do that, it will probably ruin them, because they're blockbusters, right? And whereas I think Lynch's one was more experimental in a strange way, although I know Dino De Laurentiis put a lot of money towards it. Yes, exactly.
I think it's a brilliant failure in its own right, the David Lynch Dune. But
no, I agree. Yeah.
I think I agree with what you're saying to the extent that it feels such an unusual experience. But I do think that Dune gets that alien sense of the new ones, in a different way. The way they do space travel is really
it's quite elegant.
Elegant. There's this weird chamber thing that they all fly through, and and then when they levitate down to Earth, it feels so the gravity dropping, and they float silently. I love that. That's so unusual, because it's normally doing this the moonwalk kind of vibe, isn't it?
I think the key difference really is with Villeneuve's versions is less is more with those. The visuals are often really simple, like an eclipse. That's not even that original, but it's dazzling. You're watching it and you're like, that's basically two circles intersecting with each other, but you're like, wow,
it's so spare.
And it doesn't cram you with excess.
No,
anything excess. The frame is largely quite bland, and intentionally, because it's set on a planet where there's nothing.
And in the first film, they kind of the home planet of the Atreides family is very green and luscious and lots of water. So when you get to Arrakis, it's just oh god,
it's oppressive, isn't it?
Desert, isn't it? No, I rewatched Dune Part 1 after watching the second one, and I had so much more time for it watching it the second time around. I really loved it, but I don't know if it's in retrospect or...
I want to see it again, for sure. I haven't... again, like I said, I've only seen it the once, but I do... I'm kind of hungry for something of that ilk. Maybe I've got a bigger telly now. I'll watch it again and turn the lights off or something.
Sit really close.
Burn my retinas off.
I'm going to go see Dune Part 2 again on IMAX, I think.
Oh, yeah. There's one in Swindon, isn't there? You're really lucky you've got an IMAX.
Swindon. It's so weird, isn't it? There was one in Bristol, but it's in the aquarium, isn't it?
It's not there anymore.
Is it not?
You can still see the building where it was, the sort of circular building. But
oh shit! Okay, I thought okay,
just a dolphin in there now or something. I don't know.
What a fucking waste!
Could have been a 9.
Should have been. So before we move on to talk about what you want to say about the sort of the sort of worth of that kind of cinematic experience. what do you think this film is going to do for the industry as a whole? Because we talk about this idea of these sort of high concept blockbuster experiences, but they are very few and far between. And not many directors are given, I don't want to say carte blanche, because I'm sure there has to be probably quite a lot of fighting to get certain things done, and maybe they have to relent to certain things to, you know, let the overall image come through. But, you know, is this something that is ultimately positive in the long run? Do we think we're going to see more filmmakers being given a vast sum of money to realise an expansive world, or is it going to be something that's going to be reserved for a very small portion of filmmakers that the top brass at Hollywood feels that they can trust?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be that. It's going to be the same as it has been. Like, I think Denis Villeneuve joins like the ranks of a pretty short list of filmmakers that gets final cut, right? Like, you know, as a result of this and probably his track record as a filmmaker. But he's made now a really excellent, large, big budget sci-fi film appreciated by critics and also by an audience.
He's very rare.
It's going to do great. I mean, it's already done like.
It's done more than the first one, I think.
Yeah. And that one was a COVID film, so it's like harder to judge.
Yeah, completely.
But, I don't think there's going to be like a significant groundswell in the sense that they're going to be like giving more like not necessarily unproven but like lower ranking filmmakers like go and make a a possible 2-part movie because it wasn't guaranteed on an esoteric novel from 1965 that's been like absorbed by Hollywood
in various guises
I don't think it's gonna lead to like a big wave of things, but I do think maybe like in terms of where like, is there going to be an imprint of like, oh yeah, let's just adapt some more random shit? Like, yeah, probably. Like,
yeah,
it depends. I think like it proves people kind of want something different, even if it is IP. People want like something new against Marvel at the moment, right?
Yeah. Maybe this is probably the best time for these kind of films to come out because audiences are sort of starved of the big screen experience.
Yeah, that's my thought. I mean, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, the cynical side of me thinks that people are gonna start finding obscure hard science fiction novels that did reasonably well in the sort of 60s and 70s and try and adapt them as well. Yeah, and they're going to be colossal failures, and then it'll die out really quickly. But I do think that people will listen to the kind of this sort of auteur idea, which I feel like we sort of need. That term annoys me, but I do think we sort of need it at the moment. And hopefully the opportunities for other filmmakers, perhaps not as popular as Denis or Chris. Speaking of as if I'm a first name terms.
Shout out to the boys.
Yeah. I hope they get the opportunity for, at least a sort of bigger budget maybe. I mean, like you're seeing with Civil War, that Alex Garland film costs
he's another one.
Yeah, well that's true, yeah, that's a good point.
That's A24's most expensive film. They seem to make a most expensive film every year, don't they?
Yeah. Their films cost nothing and they cost more than nothing, but they're sort of determined now to become a big studio, aren't they? They want a franchise. They want an intellectual property. They've said that. Like, they want to acquire
ballsy. Yeah.
So maybe they'll find that some weird. I don't know. I mean, there's so much of stuff out there that's been done and that they tried to make like. I mean, Ender's Game's not very good, but they tried to make Ender's Game as a film series like in the last decade, and that didn't really work.
Wasn't Gondry wrestling with Ubik?
That would be cool, wouldn't it? Like,
was it Michel Gondry?
It was, yeah. He was associated with that for years.
I mean, that's my favourite Philip K. Dick novel. So
really?
I'd be all over that. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think it's another one of those things where it's like, you would want a visionary on that because you want someone that's gonna accept the fact that there's elements of Ubik that have been spread around. Philip K. Dick as a filmmaker really has been kind of heavily explored by Hollywood now, hasn't he?
He's been mined pretty extensively, hasn't he? Yeah.
You kind of want someone to pick that up and do something new, and I think that's kind of what Villeneuve did with Dune, and like there's room for it, but I don't know if it's going to be as much of I sort of compared it to The Dark Knight when I watched Dune Part 2 because I was like, it's like The Dark Knight is like this is the next new thing, but like is it though? Like The Dark Knight led us into like a massive wave of superhero films, but it was like it's a well-made movie. Like a lot of these films that come out that are like under Marvel's guys aren't as well made, are they? So
they're certainly, they're not treated with the same level of prestige. It's fandom that keeps those films going. It's not like a universal sense of, oh, this is a proper movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. Do we think them? Just quickly, Ben, before.
Yeah, man. No, all good. Yeah.
How do we view these films, and how do we sort of critique them? Because I was thinking about this quite a lot. I touched upon this earlier about me needing to pick a lane, and I'm fully aware that I do, because I do feel like I was sort of undecided. Coming out of both films, I did enjoy them.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that they exist, and I'm really looking forward to what he does next. But there is a part of me that just thinks, how do we sort of view these experiences? Because I think we're so starved of them. Is that contributing to the praise? Or, I mean, that's not necessarily their fault, and I'm not saying it is, but how do we view these movies, and how do we view filmmakers like Villeneuve and Nolan? I would say Nolan's more susceptible to this than Villeneuve is. I feel like Nolan's films are a little bit more patchy, personally, for me. But I wonder what you guys think about that in terms of the lens that we see these filmmakers through. Because Hollywood does have a tendency, we were talking about this before. Sorry, this is a really long-winded question. We were talking about this beforehand, before we started recording, about Taika Waititi. Hollywood has a problem with pushing these people and going, look, these guys do something slightly different. Yeah. And I know these guys that obviously they're in different sort of levels, but I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Sorry.
Sorry.
I am overwhelmed.
I'm scared. I think it's. I don't go to the cinema nearly as much as I used to, specifically because it's an investment of time now. Like, I know you guys go as often as you can because you do the podcast. It makes sense, but there are movies that I sort of kind of look at and I go, I don't know if I need to see that in a cinema. Like, that's a film, it's not a cinema experience.
Yeah.
And I feel like Dune Part 2, the last movie I went to see prior to Dune Part 2 was Madam Web, which is not a movie that justifies going to a cinema to watch.
No way.
It doesn't. It's like a straight to DVD film, which I think is what I said on the other podcast from 2004. Like, it's got that feel about it. Dune Part 2 is like, that movie was made to be watched at a cinema, like on the biggest screen you can get, and that to me is the difference. Is like they preserve that experience more so than like the next Marvel film or the next Taika Waititi film does. Like, I don't feel justifiably excited about going to watch those movies, whereas with Dune, I'm like, I know that's something I'm going to go and pay and I'm going to see it again because it just had that much of a left that much of an impression on me. Like, I feel like the last year we had two really big films that I think championed that, and that's obviously Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yes,
those movies were about the experience, and in different ways. Obviously, Oppenheimer's about sitting there, in your grey suit, serious, with smoking cigarettes as you watch Oppenheimer on the biggest IMAX screen you can. Whereas Barbie, you go in a pink cowboy hat and
Barbie was much more about togetherness,
which was fun. I think that's really important. Like, it's important to have those experiences. Because film is more than just watching it in a cinema, but like the cinematic element of watching a film is probably the best part of it, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
So when you come out of a film like Dune and you're like, fuck man, I loved watching that. Or like Top Gun Maverick, it's like that was made to be seen in the cinema.
Yeah, it was a spectacle, isn't it?
Falls apart when you watch it at home, but it's like made to be seen in the cinema.
It's a spectacle element, isn't it? Which I think harks back to the very sort of genesis of the medium itself, isn't it? And I think that's something which is to be cherished.
Definitely.
And I think, like, obviously when you go to places like the Watershed, you don't necessarily get those experiences, but it's a different kind of experience, isn't it? You're indulging something slightly different than you are with like a big blockbuster movie. And I think I like that we were sort of I just want to pick up what you said there about the preservation of that experience, because say what you will about Nolan and Villeneuve, more so Nolan, he is committed to that, and that even in the films I'm not as taken by, that is something that's worth patting him on the bum for.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that the idea of seeing these films with a crowd there's a weird atmosphere that happens in a cinema that contributes to like the feel of it. I don't really know why, because you're silent the whole time, and you're not even looking over your shoulder really, unless someone's chucking popcorn at you or something. But there is just something about that. About kind of sharing. There's a sharing, yeah. And that's why I like the watershed, because you feel that quite intensely sometimes.
Yeah,
maybe that's just the way the seating is or something. But like, I think that's the difference between like Taika and Nolan and Villeneuve, is that with them it's like you can kind of feel that there's an atmosphere generated by the shared experience, whereas with like other directors that get pushed by Hollywood, they're not really concerned about that.
No.
And I don't know, I think it's just nice to be reminded of it occasionally.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I really felt that. Like, Gravity was one. Remember seeing that in 2013?
I saw that cinema.
Sort of overwhelming. It was marketed a lot on its experience as well. Not marketed, but like the reviews and the festival talk about that movie was about how it was like, got to watch this in the cinema kind of thing. And it wasn't. I've never watched that since, and I feel like probably because I'm worried it won't be as good.
Yeah, it's not at home. It loses something.
Well, it's something like Oppenheimer. Interesting that I don't think you'd lose much watching that at home. And Dune as well. Like I say, I watched that at home the other day, and I was like, this still is great because it's engaging and it's visually stunning, but it's like, I don't know, it's like maybe the communal experience is the valuable part.
Yeah.
And as long as the movie, like, I don't know, as long as it is engaging enough, then it doesn't really matter what it is, does it?
I suppose not.
And it doesn't really happen as much in a blockbuster, or it's certainly in like a multiplex. Like,
no, it's true.
You go to like independent cinema, and this is going to sound a bit knobby, but the likelihood is that you're going to be surrounded by people that are as passionate as you are about the medium. And that in itself is worth something. Because you're surrounded by like-minded people, which in any walk of life is always a nice thing. But I think in a multiplex where the entertainment is a lot more for a lot of people, it's just lose a couple of hours, or
it's a date idea, isn't it? An easy
like
one at that. Like cheaper than a fucking like 4-star restaurant. And it's just that's what it is.
I was about to say, is it?
To be fair, these days. I mean, we used to work in a cinema together, didn't we? And
we did.
I remember speaking to one of the managers about it, and about the cinema experience, and he was saying about how like it's all on a decline. I don't know why I said this to him, but I said, I think the problem is you've made it less and less about the movie. All you've done is you've basically made it, I think you've almost created this atmosphere where people are more interested in the Tango Ice Blast and all that sort of stuff.
There's a restaurant and there's a pub now. And I mean, we went to watch Bullet Train in that cinema.
Oh, that was fun. I'm glad I went to see that with people, actually.
Yeah, because that's that kind of movie. But the mistake I made there is I had like a beer beforehand.
I remember.
I bought a pint. And then halfway through, I was like, I'm going to go get another beer. By the end of the movie, I was like a little bit drunk. And I was like, it's not really a good way to watch. It's a good way to watch Bullet Train. It's not a good way to watch a film, is it? Like,
I mean, with Jan, we snuck in some 9% lagers and watched for a RoboCop.
Oh, that's
to watch remake, and I was like, "This is pretty cool." Like 2 of those, and you're on your way. And it's like, "Oh, fucking watching RoboCop! This is awesome."
Yeah,
but I know what you mean. Like, I think there is a sort of, I don't know. When I said that to the manager, it was almost like I told him I backed over his fucking dog's head in the driveway. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was mortified that his beloved multiplex was in any way
not the ultimate cinema experience.
Yeah. Fucking bullshit. But I think that's why I sort of feel like I never feel like I'm part of something in a multiplex, and it's an achievement when a film like Dune does that.
Yeah, I saw it in a multiplex. It did do that. I just saw it at the View. I didn't see it anywhere that special. I wished I'd seen it in IMAX. I'm very jealous about your...
Well, I went to the smallest cinema I've ever been to watching it. I was in Frome, which is like, you probably don't even know where that is. It's down past Bradford and Avon, isn't it? So it's like a tiny little town. And I was like, they've got a cinema. I would go watch Dune then. I've got a couple of hours to kill.
Nice.
And it was tiny. It was like narrowest. It's like the little theatre in Bath. Have you been there?
I've never been, but I've heard it's quite a small screen.
Very small, and it's just quaint. And I was watching it, and it was like one particular scene, and I was just like, oh man, should have paid more money to watch it. But it was a packed screen, and you could feel like when it went quiet, everyone everyone became very aware of themselves. When it got loud, everyone was kind of like, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it recalled to me last year's experiences watching Oppenheimer and Barbie, which were amazing. That reminded me of those films. Reminded me of going to watch cinema. We're going to the cinema as a kid. And Dune Part 2. I mean, fuck me, my 12-year-old Alfie would have loved this film. All over it.
I think because obviously cinema historically has always been about the spectacle.
Yeah.
And as technology's got better and audiences are becoming more and more difficult to convince, having a film which has that effect on you is so special and so unique. And the skeptical side of me thinks it won't happen to me again for a good few years. Unless Dune Messiah comes out. I do think there is something that perhaps maybe peaked in, I'd say the mid-90s, when you get the blockbusters around then, and that was sort of the push of the computer generated.
Yeah.
The idea of wowing people with technology.
The Brave New Frontier then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and now it's not that anymore. It's actually
just an expectation.
Yeah.
It was people were more rewarding of a movie when they're like, it was practically done. Shot on film or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how Oppenheimer was marketed. No visual effects shots. Not true, by the way. But anyway.
Well, of course, those are true. What does he mean? There's no fully rendered CGI shots, because there's so many visual effects.
There's compositing.
An actual nuke.
Yeah, it's everything's compositing is still visual effects. It's just frustrating when people use that.
It's a bit deceptive how that was marketed. I mean, the film's great, so it doesn't matter, and it got bums in seats. But when people say, "Oh yeah, no VFX," I'm like, there is. Imagine if they said that about Dune, you'd be like, yeah bollocks.
Because I wonder with Dune what it was. I feel like Dune Part 2 has really benefited from word of mouth.
Yeah.
Because obviously the first film wasn't a major success, but more people are turning up to Part 2, and it's probably because in this country it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
People are probably, did you watch Dune? Or Dune Part 2's coming out, should we watch the old one? And
yes, yeah.
And it's had a really good because it's interesting. That's why I guess it reminds me of Dark Knight, because Batman Begins was for its time, it was this is a success, but it wasn't it didn't make $1 billion.
No, it made 400, I think, which was a fairly standard for a superhero film at the time.
But they were reassured enough to basically say, okay, Dark Knight, let's do another one.
Yeah.
That movie was a runaway success, and it feels like Dune Part 2 is similar to that in that respect.
Yeah, actually. It has the Empire Strikes Back thing about it, of being similar to what that happened with Dark Knight. It's just people love. I mean, it's such a kind of roaring success that it reinvigorates the existing fans, but also has brings in a lot of new people as well. Yeah.
I do wonder what it'll lead to, but all I know is that in terms of it being a cinematic experience, I think that's a rarity now, and I think you've got to be grateful when it happens.
Yeah, and it says something about audience taste more broadly, I guess, because on the one hand, audiences have clearly become incredibly passive in the way that they consume Marvel movies, and they're incredibly passive about the technology. But on the other hand, they seem to also have a keen eye for when it's deployed more sparingly or more artistically. So it's interesting. It just makes predicting things so fucking difficult, doesn't it?
It does.
Because when we get frustrated when we talk about these things and the trends and all this kind of stuff, it's easy to sort of put people into sort of easily definable camps. But it's just strange that this film is doing so well if you, on the back of the success of things like superhero movies and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it should temper the cynicism somewhat. Which I think it has done, because we're still sort of drinking it in. There's still a sort of a buzz around it, isn't there? That I think will go on for a little bit longer until eventually it just ultimately fades away. But
yeah.
I mean, I think my point about the theatrical experience has definitely been touched on quite extensively, so I think that definitely covers it. What were your thoughts? Should we move on to talking about Dune Part 2 itself?
Dune 2.
Dunk
Part 2.
Dunk Tank. Yeah,
I can't not see Dunk. Like, I don't love that logo. As a graphic designer, it does frustrate me.
I was going to ask you more broad, actually, not just about the main Dunk graphic design, which is bafflingly, it's odd, and seeing it fade in at the start, I was like, oh, yes. But the use of the font Futura.
I love Futura.
Yeah, I know you do, yeah.
There's a reason that font has excelled as well is because it's so easy to read.
Yeah, okay.
It was designed in the 20s. Yeah. It's Bauhaus, so it's... It's untouchable.
Yeah.
But it's used a lot in film. And Wes Anderson, it was his font, wasn't it? For up until I think Darjeeling Limited or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I know it's a point of consternation maybe for you.
I just every time I see it, it's like, oh, I know it. I don't know.
Clean.
Yeah,
it's so clean. It's such a clean. You can't use Times New Roman because it just looks horrible on digital screens.
Pointy N, the ends, the N and the M's.
Yeah, you could blind a man with those.
Yeah, they're pointy.
I'm just tangenting about Futura. I'm a graphic designer. It's the worst thing you could do is ask me what
no, it's good. It's nice to have that. It's nice to have that input. I like it.
As soon as I saw it come up, I was like, I'm going to ask Alfie about it, and then it kept coming up in its various guises, and then the end credits happened. I was like, wow, what a brilliant they've used it again for the end credits.
4 stars.
Yeah, literally. I remember thinking, I don't know, I remember seeing it on a bus advertising the Tintin film, and it was quite prominently used on that, and that was when it clicked for me. I was like, I've seen this a lot. Well, why is it? It's just everywhere. To me, it's a bit overwhelming. Its use is overwhelming, but anyway,
a lot of people hate Helvetica in the same way. But again, I love those fonts. They work.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I suppose maybe it's me.
I'm a bit of a modernist when it comes to this sort of stuff, so I do tend to like it. But
fair enough. Yeah.
Anyway. Dune Part 2.
Apart from that, I liked it. Yeah.
Font talk.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of Dune Part 2?
I hate it.
I need to go.
I really enjoyed it. I went in and I was really, really, really hungover.
Oh man.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I'm such a fucking lad. I just can't.
2 beers.
Yeah, 2 beers. Yeah.
Trying to impress us.
Yeah. I'm glad. Yeah. Because I'm pretty cool. And I kind of, when you're in that sort of state of mind, you sort of, I don't know, in your 30s, hangovers are just an all body assault now. So it's you're not just ill, you're anxious. Yeah, and your heart rate's like a fucking gerbils.
It's you feel like you're going to die.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So I was kind of going in on that, so everything was feeling a bit, and it did sort of just completely envelop me in it. And I really liked it. I think I just have those things I was sort of talking about earlier. It's niggling. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
And it annoys me that that's there.
Do you think that maybe it's pretending to be cleverer than it is? Is that your kind of potential thought process?
I don't know. I can't honestly to put my finger on it. I'm going to be honest. I don't think having Timothée Chalamet in it helps.
Okay. Yeah.
He's such a good actor. He's so charismatic. I know he's a little kind of
a New York kind of
New York guy, but he's so versatile.
Upper middle class.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, it's not. I'm not saying that I dislike him.
No,
I just find him unconvincing in that role. However,
okay,
yeah.
I've not read the source material. He's younger in the book, isn't he?
He's 13, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
so maybe now.
I don't think you could go any younger.
No.
You just wouldn't. I don't think there's a young enough actor that has the chops to do a role that complicated. But
no, I agree. I just think there's something, I don't know what it is about him that I don't know. I just find it.
You're not alone in that way of thinking. Other people, a lot of people at work are annoyed by him.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
it's not that he annoys me. I don't know what it is. I just.
He's everywhere at the moment.
Yeah, there's just something.
He's kind of a star. He's like a movie star, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Conventional sense of the word.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly pulling people in or dividing people on his own name. There's not many actors that do that.
That's true.
No, I'm not saying that as a positive necessarily. Like that.
No. But I know what you mean. That's any press.
I thought his performance was a big improvement on the first film. Actually,
that is true.
Yeah, I thought he did a lot more shouting in this one, and it worked. I was like, oh Jesus!
Maybe he's kind of. It's like obviously the whole point of Dune is it's like Lawrence of Arabia, right? Like if you wanted to apply a narrative.
Yeah.
That was one of Frank Herbert's big inspirations writing it. It's about putting ultimate faith into one person. It's not a good thing to do. Like, and Dune Part 2 is really about that, isn't it? And I think like he plays a much more versatile character in this film.
Yeah,
like he's a lot like in the first one. He's kind of uncertain, reluctant.
Yeah, he's struggling with the idea that he has a destiny
or does he? And also exactly. Struggling to accept that there's anything wrong. Like the first hour of that film is just him moping, and like Josh Brolin going like, "You do realise what's going to happen, don't you? Like, you do realise we're fucked." Like, that's the whole movie, and then he has to become a hero, kind of thing. And then the second one is kind of going like, "Is he a hero?"
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to be?
It's a strange mix of sort of religious ideas and a kind of science. There's a definite clash in those themes. Like there's a bit in it which encapsulates, for me anyway, like was quite impactful in that respect. Like it's the bit where right at the beginning it's that they're recycling, or at least initially you'd think that they're recycling someone's body for its water. I remember thinking, okay, so they're establishing the Freeman. Is it Freeman or Freeman? Fremen, yeah, as resourceful, kind of no nonsense, sort of like living off the land type people. And then it turns out that every recycled body is put into a pool, and it's actually like quite a religious thing. Yeah, and that was sort of uncomfortable for me. I was like, oh, so they're putting, even though they're like very resourceful and they're shown to be that way, they're putting their religious ideology first.
Yeah, well, they live in faith of the planet providing them, like as opposed to the Harkonnens and the Atreides. So I'm getting it so nerdy. They're using the planet for its they're exploiting the planet for its resources, and the Fremen kind of like they have a relationship with the planet.
Symbiotic.
They use the sandworms as a sort of like a
transportation,
the bus service.
They also worship them. They view them as like godlike figures and stuff, and they understand that the spice is that has beneficial powers, but they're not exploiting it. It's a philosophical thing. I mean, it's like there's a reason a lot of the language is Middle Eastern. Like
it's like colonial, isn't it? It's like the attitude of a sort of I guess the indigenous population versus the colonizers, right? Which I guess is pretty overt, isn't it?
Oh, it's not subtle, is it? But maybe it goes over the head of some people, I imagine. But like, if you're able to read the film,
not like us, eh?
Cineboys. This is why you tune in, isn't it? Fucking losers.
It was like the colonisers and the colonisers. Oh, sorry, I'm going to fart. I don't want to smell it. It's really nice.
But it's like that's the point of it, though. Like,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love you.
Thanks. It's good to be back. I'm sharp.
But I liked that though. I liked the uncomfortable, theme. The sort of the theme of, do we let our religious ideology wash over us and base our actions on that, or do we look at the facts? And they are battling with that. And there's sort of the idea of the southern fundamentalists is like quite a big thing,
isn't there, amongst people there as well?
Yeah,
those that believe in, I can't remember, but their name for the Messiah is the one that basically Javier Bardem. Muad'Dib is his
Muad'Dib,
It's like Lias Sal Aid or something, and it means like it's a person that's come to them. Like,
isn't it quite similar to the Mujahideen? Is that effectively
possibly? Yeah, I mean, it's basically
inspiration.
Like the Mujahid or something like that. It's like,
I hope I've got that right.
It's something like that. It means prophet, and it's basically what Javier Bardem keeps saying in the film. It's like, the prophecy.
He's really championing that, isn't he?
Chalamet opens his mouth. He's like, just as it was written. But they play that for laughs, which I think I was going to make a point because you said like Villeneuve's quite humorless.
Yeah,
this movie was quite funny.
Yeah, there is definitely, they're good in for that, aren't they? At points, but not in a way that derails the grander narrative. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So what about, by comparison then, obviously you get the Arrakis stuff at the start of the movie.
Yeah.
The amazing black and white stuff.
Yeah, it was like infrared. They shot them on. They shot it on these cameras which make the skin slightly translucent.
Yeah,
and it's only
makes everyone look like an axolotl.
Yeah. It's only possible in black and white, and it's because of a black sun, which we'll gloss over that. I don't know how. I mean, it's science fiction, isn't it? Yeah.
They just play that.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
Saunters out of the bar.
Echo, son. I loved that sequence. I thought that was stunning.
Hannah thought it was a bit much, actually. I went to see it with Hannah, and she was like, I actually thought it was a bit oppressive.
Okay. I think it's meant to be, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, completely. That's exactly what I said to her.
It's meant to be, Hannah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I sounded like a dick because she was like, yeah, but it doesn't mean I enjoyed it. Well, fair enough.
That's a good criticism, actually. I think Emily would probably have a similar look on it as well.
Yeah, it's designed to make you anxious, and Austin Butler's screaming in your face. He was
really good.
He was great, yeah. I find his the way he interviews, and it's quite unusual and quite like I can't
say I watched many of his interviews. But...
yeah, he was on one of those round tables.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't like those.
No, with the Hollywood Report.
No, I really.
But don't. He's clearly very method, and he is, isn't he? He's devoid of humour, or at least gives off that impression. I'm sure he's lovely, but. Anyway,
he's an incredible mimic as an actor. I think. He's very method, but like his accent was so good. Just like
Skarsgård. Yeah. Crazy.
I thought it was fantastic. There was one thing in that fight scene, that Colosseum scene that I love. Those freaky dudes with like the horn heads.
Oh yeah.
It just freaked me out, man. I was like, I don't know what it was, but it's just an image that sits in your head. Which
that was like the one Lynchian thing left.
It was.
In that film, the last hang up from Lynch.
Definitely, yeah. I thought that was that was one of the highlights actually. That weirdly enough, I really like the bit where they kiss, him and Zendaya,
that was.
I don't know why it got to me. I was just like, not because that kind of moment in films is sort of part of the parcel.
Did you have the Dune popcorn dispenser?
Can you get that in this country?
Or the kissing. Better slip this off.
Yeah. But you spill your popcorn.
It looked really violent. Was that the joke?
Yeah. You clearly haven't looked at the flashlights.
No, I suppose I haven't. I can't say I'm too well versed in them.
No, to be honest, never mind.
No.
Why
are you making eye contact? What are you looking at? What's that big box over there in the corner?
Such a strange way to market a film like this is the use of like merchandise.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did no one look at that and think flashlight?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
There's like a rule in design of like, does it look like a penis? It's genuinely like a thing when you're making like logos and stuff, like the penis test.
Really?
And it's like there must be one for like, does it look? does this popcorn bucket look like people are going to try and have sex with it?
Yeah.
Because if so, mass produce.
Yeah. I mean, it probably helps actually. That's been part of his marketing stunt. Whether intentionally or otherwise, people have been talking about that for weeks now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true.
That's quite funny.
Sorry, Zendaya kiss.
Oh yeah, I really liked it. Just really thought it was a really quite a sweet, special, very epic moment in and considering it was just an on-screen kiss, I was like, oh wow, that really worked.
I thought this film was quite romantic. What I liked is it ticked so many boxes. It was epic. It was romantic. It was quite tragic at points.
Yeah.
Like it kind of ticks all those boxes for me, I think. Like
some fantastic action sequences as well. Like really, I mean, I watched it. I think it was like at Dolby Atmos, but like really benefited from that. There's a moment where the Zendaya, I'll start calling her Chani because that's what she's called. She shoots a rocket at an orthocopter. What they call it?
That scene was amazing.
Yeah, and
that was such a good scene.
It sticks in the shield, explodes. The explosion is contained within the shield, then it breaks the shield apart, and then there's a shot of Timothée Chalamet running across the desert. All the sound stops, and you're like, oh, and then this crash was like almighty, and that was really great.
When he ran out and he had to be bait, for the helicopter to drop the shield, this is so good. And the scene when he first rides the worm. As well, I thought.
Yeah.
I think in that moment, I genuinely in my head, I was like, "This is awesome!"
That was a real highlight.
That's why I got the popcorn back.
Time to ride my worm.
Yeah.
Did you? This is a tangent, but you know that song "Weapon of Choice" by Fatboy Slim?
Right. Yeah.
With the Christopher Walken in the music.
Yeah.
Did you know that lyric in it was a Dune reference?
No.
Really?
Walk without rhythm, and you won't attract the worm. I never got.
Oh my god! Yeah.
And then Christopher Walken's in it.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
His casting in this was slightly distracting for me, actually.
Yeah, it was a bit weird, wasn't it? I think it was a bit too prominent. And also, like, spice stops you from aging.
Yes.
So old.
Yeah.
They have not cast someone a bit young.
The Emperor of the galaxy or whatever.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd have access to a bit of spice.
I think so. What about Florence Pugh?
She wasn't in it as much as I thought she was.
She's probably going to get a big role in the next one, right? I think that's what
I got that impression.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
I liked her in it. I don't think she was particularly standout.
No, she was okay, wasn't she? Yeah.
She didn't
cast though. This film's got.
Yeah. Anya Taylor-Joy pops up.
Yeah, for 10 seconds.
I got a feeling they sent a crew to Namibia because that beach is very typical of a lot of African coastlines.
Yeah, of course,
so she was probably doing Furiosa, and they probably sent a couple of people out there to do that scene.
You might remember in the 80s June that Paul's sister is born and ages very quickly.
Okay.
To be a toddler who has, like, when she speaks, they dubbed in like an adult woman's voice, because in the book their consciousness of this character is growing rapidly because she's, like, advanced by Bene Gesserit or whatever.
Yeah.
They rightly cut that out of this film and just gave her a little cameo, which I think was a more sensible choice. Really.
Yeah.
There's no way you can do that and make that not look shit.
Yeah, we've got people riding worms. You don't want to push it. You know what I mean?
They've been quite good with, like, cutting things out in this. Like they don't have the guild, which is that weird worm thing that, like, not worm, it's like a bug thing that, like,
the guild navigators.
They have them as, like, these weird knights or something in the first film, don't they? But in the David Lynch film, it's like a thing in a tub, basically comes and I was like, you have to send the Atreides to Arrakis, and it's just like, that's not working for me.
There's some wisely deleted stuff, definitely.
There's some shit in Dune that just never going to work on screen.
Works on the page, because
that's why they said it was unfilmable, didn't they? Because it's like, there's so much narration and, like,
there's a bit in it which did sort of grate on me a little bit, if I'm being picky at this point, but there's a bit where they say, the Fremen word for Arrakis is, and then they almost look at you and they go, Dune. You're like, I know the film's called Dune, but I can see loads of dunes everywhere.
Yeah.
So I get why it's called that. Don't worry about it. Don't need to explain that to me. Like, and also, is the Fremen language just English? And I don't know. Yeah, it's picky, but there we go.
That's good. I mean, there's that Family Guy joke, isn't there, when they say the title of films, like, in the movie, and it's like, they always, whenever they do it, you always go, there it is. I heard it.
Yeah.
It does feel a bit weird. I don't know. I don't really remember that bit. I'm trying to think of anything I had issues with. I think maybe, like, I thought it was weird that it was, like, entirely focused on Timothée Chalamet, and then it went to, like, the Harkonnens for a while, and then it went back. Like, I thought that it could have maybe cut a little bit more, but maybe it was to make a point of sort of saying, like, they did
stray away from him for a long time, didn't they? Yeah. And now both portions of the film are good, but it's an odd editing choice.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see them all as, like, one film. Like, will it just feel like one long movie? Like,
I feel like if it was, there'd be a very unusually epic moment right in the middle, because the battle at the end of the first one, which is just a knife fight. They always end these with knife fights, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's a good point.
I thought the first half was slightly stronger than the second, although the overarching theme of Paul and his kind of, I guess, corruption. Would you say
corruption? Yeah, he's not a hero really towards the end, is he?
Once he drinks that liquid, he's fucking insufferable.
Yeah. There's the scene where he goes in and they kind of, like, they say, like, you have to kill heavy about him, and he kind of denies it and starts sort of saying, I'm the Messiah and all that sort of stuff, and it's like it's gone to his head at that point. And that's all right about where Chani sort of starts to go, no, this is...
Yeah, she leaves, doesn't she?
She leaves, yeah.
Well, because he says, I'm going to marry...
Oh, yeah, that came out of nowhere as well, didn't it?
Also, she takes issue with him being, like, saying that he's going to bring paradise to Dune. So that's like... That's obviously... Like in the David Lynch film, it ends and it rains, which just doesn't happen in the book, which is really funny. Like he doesn't bring. He's not supposed to do that. Like, that's the point of the book.
It's quite a common misconception about Dune is that Paul Atreides is just like a hero, exactly. What you were saying about subverting the hero's journey. This film makes a point of
doing that.
Yeah, your allegiance does shift once he drinks that liquid.
Yeah, you're less sort of... You're kind of made to be aware that what he's doing isn't right anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I do think maybe the second half is a little bit more heavy, action-packed side. Maybe that's why it feels a little bit overwhelming by comparison.
Yeah. I just think that the first half contains the slightly better, and I do mean slightly, the sort of action sequences are slightly better and a lot more awe-inspiring, although there are some great moments in the second half as well. So I don't know, what do you think?
I think probably made the first half slightly stronger. I kind of felt that the grandiosity almost somewhat overpowered the stuff that was going on in the central plot. I thought these constant allusions to this sort of grandiose, this sort of unexplored grandiosity. I thought it did sort of cloud the sort of journey a little bit for me. But I think the first half was definitely the stronger. And also the action sequences were better when they were more contained. I thought the battle sequence was over a bit quick.
Yeah, some people have said that.
I mean, again, it's still brilliant. I'm not gonna I quite like that he was sparing with it in a way. Sort of like a Helm's Deep thing. I was kind of maybe wanting a bit more, but
I think he was aware that maybe, like, because obviously we're gonna love that, but like not an everyday audience might be a bit like, fucking another one.
That's true.
I thought there's like a montage basically, like it's not really a montage, but it's like where they keep fucking up the spice production.
Coming out
of the ground and that stuff, and that was really cool.
That was fucking awesome. I loved that. I thought it was really cool.
Dave Bautista's downfall was a good portion. That was really good.
His turnaround was so rapidly quick though. He goes from in the first film being like a really sort of notable adversary to like just being like a fucking wet wipe.
Is it Austin Butler's basically Sting's character in the original 1984?
Bring back Sting. Should have been Sting.
Where was Sting?
Recast Sting.
With his bass.
That would have been good, And the same codpiece that he wears in
definitely. But larger.
Like, no, smaller. Less codpiece.
More pubes.
More pubes.
More police pubes.
Love the police, great.
These are all quotes by Villeneuve himself, talking to Austin Butler.
Script notes,
Dennis, I'm not doing this, mate.
Apparently, Sting gave Austin Butler the codpiece, didn't they? Gifted it.
Like a ceremonial offering.
Oh, that's quite sweet.
Pass this on to you now.
Fucking stinks.
Imagine like Sting.
Not the wrestler.
Not the wrestler, unfortunately. Sting is, the wrestler would have been a good choice, wouldn't he? Very old man with heart problems. I thought that character was great. He was the MVP for me, I think.
I tried to. I thought.
And Zendaya.
Yeah.
She was good, I thought.
Yeah, I thought she was good. I didn't think she was stand out, though, personally.
No, okay.
But again, I liked him. Yeah. I also like Brolin.
Yeah, Brolin's return was good.
I like.
He sort of starts swaying Chalamet back towards the nuke side of things, and like we should use these weapons to your advantage.
It's like vengeance driven, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't lean on that too much. Purely because I've seen Oppenheimer.
Weirdly prescient, like two big movies within a year of each other, and like Florence Pugh's in it, and it's about nukes.
It is weird, isn't it? How
things sort of come up as a theme.
I think we talked about this a few times, but like is it like are they sort of trying to stir the sort of current of anxiety, or are they responding to it?
I think it must be the response.
To COVID.
There's a sense of that in the world.
Ultimate destruction. It's definitely a theme that people are quite keen on exploring.
Because everyone is just fucking terrified of that happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's happened a few times over the last couple of years where it's felt possible that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I guess the fact that there's stuff about that in media kind of makes sense. I remember when we were at uni and all movies were about uprisings, and at the time you had like the Arab Spring and like the Occupy New York movement. Wall Street was all happening in the real world. That was obviously informing. At the time, and like now, it's nuclear hysteria and like. Weirdly, a lot of stuff about occupation and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think it's an intelligent blockbuster. I think it's about as good as you could hope for, really. Like, it's one to see.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely recommend.
Recommend.
Recommendo.
What do you give it out of 50 stars?
How many Dunes would you give Dune Part 2?
How many Sting cod pieces would you give Dune Part 2?
Well, I would give loads.
Just infinite amounts.
Because I'm just desperate for a Sting cod piece.
Did
he just wear one, or did he have multiple?
We can assume that multiple were made, but we'll never know for sure, will we? That's maybe the next episode. A deep dive.
Sort of like a Dispatches investigates.
Yeah.
We just change the tone of the whole thing.
Contacting like production designers from Dune film.
Chasing down David Lynch.
Yes. He refused to talk about it, wouldn't he, probably?
Yeah.
He's talking about Dune.
But then maybe if he talks about something as obscure as that, maybe he'd entertain that.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
We'll see. Find out next week.
I wonder if he liked this version of Dune.
Well, someone asked him if he watched the last one, and he was like, he just basically was like, I won't watch it. But apparently he doesn't really watch movies and stuff. He just paints, doesn't he?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Did he get an honorary Oscar this year? Was that this year?
He's definitely won a sort of fellowship or something like that award.
Oh, was it this year? I don't know. Maybe I'm just...
He got an Oscar for Dune, to be honest.
Yeah.
For the
best Dune adaptation.
Sorry, representative Oscar for...
Dune sweep at this year.
Interesting that, I mean, obviously, the timing of the release, but no nods in the Oscars. I guess it was too late.
Well, Dune?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have had to have been released last year?
Yeah, last year, so...
Imagine it could get visual effect nomination.
Yeah.
Maybe editing and sound design, particularly sound design.
Yeah. Depends on what comes out this year, actually, because it could get overshadowed by films that are more strategically released.
Because March is normally, like, it's become more of a thing, hasn't it? It used to be like a graveyard.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
It's kind of a good time to release a film now for some reason.
I'm interested to see, how it does well, how it stacks up, because there does seem to be a sort of a certain reluctance on the part of the Academy to sort of willingly sort of like embrace a huge, big money movie.
Yeah, they kind of sort of they fucked it up a bit with Barbie, I guess. Not fucked it up, but they kind of dipped their toes and sort of didn't really give Greta a big nomination.
They should have at least done that, shouldn't they? Really, I think
probably.
It's so hard to know with those fucking award ceremonies because so much of it is dictated by them wanting to look a certain way to the broader
that's it, isn't it?
consumer.
That's why Green Book won.
Yeah,
I was thinking about the whole La La Land thing. I mean, that was wild.
Yeah.
Moonlight and La La Land.
God, yeah.
And then the Hollywood Reporter had the cover of it was David Chazelle and Barry Jenkins both like holding the Oscar and like looking sort of solemn. And I was like, just let the man have his award. Like, why do you have to bring Damien Chazelle? Like, he doesn't need to be there, does he?
No.
Like, just remind. No, everyone when they think about Moonlight, they think about that probably. Everyone. Everyone is a loser like me.
Lying in bed at night. With your Dune flashlight.
I just wonder. Sometimes what do you think? Honestly. Please go to bed. You're right. Googling Dune codpiece original.
You on your phone? No.
Sale. Look at codpieces again.
Codpiece for sale. They should have done that. They should have released Dune codpieces and popcorn buckets.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that out of the realm of reason, is it? Really?
No.
I might actually just buy a codpiece. I've never worn one.
Go for it, man.
Yeah.
Why not? Do you think, what other merch potentials could you have seen come out of Dune Part 2?
Oh, the like, you know those like nose clips you can get for swimming?
Yeah.
Do a Dune one.
Yeah,
because they all, I mean, it'd be quite hard to design them based on the film because they are just quite normal looking. What else? You could do a dagger or something. You could do like,
That's pretty cool.
you could do a kind of Harkonnen Halloween mask. That'd be quite terrifying.
They were scary looking guys, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like monk-like, sort of hairless.
They look a bit like the Prometheus guy, don't they?
Yeah. What are they called? The jockeys?
Crossover,
Not a jockeys. What are they called? The
they were
DNA men.
They were called something like jockeys, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Can't remember.
No, I can't remember.
Engineers.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
clever film that was. Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. You guys love Prometheus as much as me. Like,
there's something in there that I wanted to love.
Yeah.
I bought
pretty bad.
I brought 2 people to the cinema and told them it's going to be amazing. And they were really confused coming out of it, and I had to pretend that I liked it.
I saw that on IMAX actually, and I was like, "This is fucking great." And then DVD came out, like watched that, and I was like, "Yeah, this is not very good, is it?" It's no AVP.
No, God,
Requiem.
Requiem, yeah.
Requiem, yeah.
Requiem.
It's just such a fucking pretentious subtitle, isn't it?
Yeah,
For
I
a
love
pretty,
it though.
Yeah, but it's not like a good movie, is it?
No, good God, no.
It's
no.
like great schlock. Like,
Yeah.
really
the first
dark.
one's all right.
Yeah, was that Paul W.S. Anderson?
Yeah,
my favourite Paul Anderson.
Paul Anderson,
yeah. They've got Predator 2 on DVD, haven't they? Like, doesn't look like you've got Predator 1.
No, I actually prefer Predator 2.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Like, I mean, Predator 2 is kind of more interesting, I guess. Like,
Yeah, I think there's a lot more. Yeah, like, there's a lot more sort of thematic.
Danny Glover's.
Yeah, he's great in it. Yeah. I really like it.
I still thought you guys were on Alien vs Predator for a minute. Then I was like, "Fuck, are you talking? No, they're not that good, are they?" Oh, okay. Wait a minute.
Because Predator 1 was like entirely reshot, wasn't it? Because the monster looked shit or something.
Yeah. And Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah. I still like it. Don't be wrong. But I prefer 2.
Yeah, fair play. No, it just was interesting. There's nothing to do with Dune at all. They've tuned out. Let's face it.
Yeah, they're all fucked off.
If you're still listening, I hate you. Don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I knew this is it. This is like Chris and Alex have infected you.
Yeah, they told you to say that. They told you to slip it in at some point.
Yeah.
Don't listen to this podcast.
Bastards.
I'm a covert operative from the Film Angle Enterprises. Inc. Yeah, Film Angle Incorporated.
Right, outro.
Questing the cinematic void.
There we have it then. Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you very much for coming on, Alfie.
Oh, thanks for having me again.
Lovely.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been lovely having you back. Don't be a stranger.
Glad to have you grease the wheels of this well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it's just running well in my absence. If anything, it's running better in my absence because it gets put out every week.
I can't really take much credit for that, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember struggling to get it edited between the two of us.
Yeah.
That's good. Great. Thanks for having me on. And
all good, mate. Anytime.
Talking about a great film as well. So.
Yeah. Lovely.
Absolutely. Next week,
Perfect Days.
Perfect Days.
Wim Wenders' Perfect Days. Is it Vim or Wim?
I think it depends. I think, Wim Wenders is probably how a German would say it.
Yeah. So I can't make a pun about going to see it on a whim because it wouldn't. That would A, not be funny, and B, disrespectful.
I think you should make that.
Yeah, I think you should double down on it.
Maybe I will. Yeah. Maybe I'll like aggressively push that next week.
Just so I was saying, going to see it on a Vim.
Oh, yeah, you mix the two there.
Yeah,
not bad.
Go see it on a Vendors. No, wait a minute. It doesn't work.
I went to see it on a Vim after a wild vendor the night before.
Yeah.
Oh,
got some M&M's in a vending machine. Vending machine. That'd be really good.
Interesting filmmaker.
Brilliant filmmaker, yeah. Obviously, Paris, Texas, etc. We'll have a discussion about those kinds of movies.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He's got a big place in my heart, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And the film too, which is interesting. Just on a sort of broader level, because Wenders does seem to have a sort of fascination with Japanese culture, cinema, particularly.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
from the outside, it's always interesting to see people make stuff from the outside.
Yes, another
German thing.
Yeah, another move away from blockbuster cinema as well for us.
Well. Yeah, it'd be nice to do that.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Happy days.
Tuning in.
Yeah. Oh,
thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.